Hey, it's me, WWE Hall of Famer from the LOD, Road Warrior Animal. And who are you?
Yeah, I gotta do this when? Now? I'm watching a match. What is now? Now is it? Oh, now. Yeah. Thanks. Hey, this is the Pharaoh from Monty and the Pharaoh. I just want to say thank you to our subscribers as we now have hit the 10,000 plateau. Thank you to all our subscribers out there. But I'm going to ask our subscribers to take the next step for us and become a full-fledged YouTube Monty and the Pharaoh member. Yes, that's right, folks. You can check it out. We've got 3 different levels. There's free shirts. There's free autographs. There's all sorts of perks for our members. There is nothing more we enjoy than giving you this program. And to do that, we need your support, and we appreciate your support. This is Jimmy Pharaoh, and don't forget to check out Monty and the Pharaoh every Thursday from Indie Music TV and on Cablevision here locally in New York. Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monty and the Pharaoh. Later. Is that good enough for you? Can I finish this? Lesnar's killing him. I'm pissed.
Welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monty and the Pharaoh, produced out of Indie Music TV, straight out of Ronkonkoma, Long Island. And at the board is our super producer, Matty. How are you, sir?
I'm doing spectacular as always.
How did you like last week's show with Mr. John Cena Sr.?
It was awesome. It was really engaging, and I'm surprised that's the reaction. You know, you guys were really civil. Did not think it was going to be super lighthearted, but it went right straight from the bat.
Let me ask you, as being a producer, at some points do you start to feel uncomfortable about what you think may be coming up, or what you hear coming out of either me or Jimmy Pharaoh's mouth?
I mean, yeah, but I mean, it's also your show, so you know.
Are you saying you're used to us at this point?
Yeah.
Good man. Familiarity breeds championships. That works. Good job.
And to the right is the star of the show, Mr. Jimmy Pharaoh. Jimmy, how are you, buddy?
The usual. Haven't slept since the dark ages, but here I am. What's going on?
How did you like the John Cena Sr.?
Loved it.
Yeah?
Absolutely loved it. Class act, great interview, good man.
What'd you
really
take
enjoyed
away?
it.
Do you have a takeaway?
Many things about John Cena Sr. He has a lot of very well thought out things to say. I liked his stance on the Afghanistan situation. You know, as usual, we didn't talk just about wrestling with our guest, you know.
Right.
I liked what he had to say about the Afghanistan situation. I think that he has done quite a bit with, you know, we always think about what must it be like to have a famous father. In this case, it's the father with the famous son.
Wow.
I think that he has done really well, considering, you know, this is John Cena's father. I mean, my God, how do you even attempt to do something in the wrestling world when your son is John Cena?
You know,
done a hell of a job.
Life
How about them apples?
Life is full of jealousy.
Yeah.
Do you think that a father...
He doesn't have any.
No, but
you could see it.
I get it, but do you
that's
think
great.
in a lot of cases a father becomes jealous of their son?
Could happen, sure. It could happen, absolutely. It's human nature to be jealous when somebody does better than you, much less a close person to you or a relative. It's kind of normal.
Even more different than a sibling rivalry, right?
Yeah, it's got to have a different dynamic, you know. It's interesting, but he's done a great job with it, and he was a great interview, and I enjoyed doing the editing for him.
Pretty classy guy
for cable. It was great, great.
So everybody out there, we know we had a planned topic of WCCW,
Yes, sir.
which is near and dear to our hearts, but unfortunately a few hours ago, Miss Daffney Unger passed away at the age 46. Former wrestler Daffney Unger, whose goth-style makeup, punk attitude, and uninhibited shrieking earned her the nickname Scream Queen, was found dead today at her home outside Atlanta. She was 46. Although the cause of death was not disclosed, she had hosted a disturbing Instagram Live on Wednesday night in which she appeared to be discussing suicide, and she held a small gun. Her death was confirmed today by her mother, friends, and several pro wrestling promoters. Unger, whose height of fame was in the late 1990s, early 2000s, retired from active wrestling 10 years ago. In her final video, she spoke of suffering from chronic traumatic, CTE, a brain disorder which caused by repeated concussions.
What am I supposed to say about this? You're 46 years old, again with social media, going on social media, saying how sad and depressed and how messed up she is, and then this happens. You know what's weird? And I already know there's something wrong with me anyway, but I don't feel sad. I'm kind of pissed. Why would you do this to yourself? I mean, I can't say that I officially have CTE, but I've gone through a windshield. I was in the passenger seat of a car. I went flying through a windshield. I bashed my skull in. I used to play catcher. I've been slammed into over 25 years over and over and over again. I'm pretty sure that I've had about 9 concussions in my life. So for those folks who think that I'm on coke, there it is. There's your answer. It is not coke. It is probably some form of head trauma. But I'm just upset about it, but not sad. I'm almost angry about it. It's like... And what is the story with CT that this seems to keep happening, especially with wrestlers? I'm almost at a loss for words. She's 46 years old. And then I thought about this too. Do you think sometimes, like to me, she had a taste of fame, okay, but it wasn't sustained. Is that hard for someone? When you always want to be something and then you get to that level, but it's yanked away and then you spend years wondering if you could have been more and stuff like that? I don't know. I wish I could have spoke to her to see exactly what's going on besides the headaches, besides the obvious terrible things that she went through physically. Was it, she said she was depressed. I mean, did they get into that heavily? It's horrible. I'm not sure what more I can really say about it. It's really horrible, and I'm sick of social media, and sometimes it gets used for things like this. I remember a couple of years back, there was a kid on YouTube who announced to the world he's going to kill himself. He's going to do this, and he did. I don't understand. I can't even fathom this at this point anymore.
I think the harder point here, man, is what drives
Sad.
someone to a point where they don't want to live anymore.
Yeah.
I could see reasons, we'll talk about it with our guest Mike in a little bit.
That's the individual's choice, man.
But,
I mean,
I could see...
I don't judge that.
When does it get so bad
just
that
frustrated.
it's better off being dead? Because then there's no future, right? It's like you just want it over.
Yeah, I don't want to get too personal, but look, I think some of us have been there, and I've had my moments when I was younger. I can't say I didn't.
Did you ever contemplate suicide?
Yeah. What am I going to sit here and
so,
lie?
okay.
I'm not going to sit here and lie.
So what drove the Pharaoh to consider suicide?
Well, it's what drove the Pharaoh to consider life. That's more important, okay? Because as down as you get, my influence was always my pop. My pop wanted to live forever. He thought life was a precious gift. He always said, I want to make it to 100. Unfortunately, for a guy who didn't drink and didn't smoke and didn't do drugs and was a good, clean living man, he got cut down in his early 70s without a warning, So when it comes to that...
But with all due respect, okay,
Yeah.
70's young. Mm-hmm. But it's still 70.
Yeah,
right?
I should be so lucky. So I do understand your point with that, but you gotta choose life. You can't You can't do that to yourself. You know, there are people who care about you. There are people who will miss you. There are people who will never understand what you did to yourself.
So
you got to think about them sometimes,
is there
too.
something behind the CTE thing? I'm just going to name
Of course there is.
I'm going to name
There's
a few
definitely something
wrestlers
behind-
who committed suicide.
Yeah, there's definitely something behind it.
Chris Benoit,
Yeah.
which, again, totally different situation. I kind of don't want to even put that
Understood,
into this thing.
understood.
Sean Osborne.
Right.
The Renegade. Some names people may not know.
Okay.
Brain Damage.
Right.
Adam Firestorm.
Okay.
Skull Murphy. Yukon Erich.
Yukon Erich. Wow.
Larry Sweeney.
Larry Sweeney, of course.
Eddie Graham.
Eddie Graham. The great Eddie Graham.
His son, Mike
The
Graham.
great Mike Graham.
Ed Ganter. Sean O'Hare.
That one bothers me. Yep. Sure.
Crash Holly.
That one bothers me, too.
Chris Canyon.
That drives me nuts.
Mike Von Erich.
Yep. Another. All the Von Erichs almost, or a lot of them.
Tojo Yamamoto.
Tojo Yamamoto.
The
My
great
God.
Kerry Von Erich.
The great Kerry Von Erich. Yeah.
Ludwig Borga.
Yep.
Chris Von Erich.
I can't take all these Von Erichs.
Mike Awesome.
You know,
And,
really,
and
man.
we spoke earlier, Chris Benoit.
Yeah, Mike Awesome. And he was awesome. Dude, there's definitely something to CTE. Anybody who thinks that there isn't is just, I think, being ignorant. I can't, dude. I'm almost out of words with this. Why would someone do this? Why did somebody do this to
I
themselves?
saw parts of the video.
Ozzy's still alive. Keith Richards is still alive.
I watched part of the video, and it's like a person screaming for help, and it's sad in so many ways that a person
frustrating.
gives up on their life and themselves.
Yep. Yep.
And I mean, look, who am I to judge? I don't.
I'm not judging nothing. Staying
but-
far away from that.
I got to tell you, as us all being wrestling fans, you know,
I wonder how Crowbar's feeling.
maybe
about
we
this.
should honor these legends that have made us happy a little better,
Yeah.
just a little.
Yeah. I wonder if it was hard for her to get bookings and work. I don't know what played into this. There was probably a lot of different factors.
All right, with that, I'd like to thank the band that sings the theme song for Monty Nefaro, Wisteria Hall, our own Jimmy Farrell, along with his partner Bart Griggs, make up the band Wisteria Hall. They sing such great songs as In My Dreams, This Life, Not Far Behind, Here Comes the Rain, and Riding High, the theme song.
Nice. Bartman.
You can find their music on the Wisteria Hall YouTube page. Give them a like and subscribe.
Yeah.
Hear them on Spotify, Apple Tunes. Download their music from Reverb Nation.
Yeah.
And if you didn't know it, you are watching Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monty Nefaro, where you can see us on YouTube, our Facebook Live page. Hear us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor. Catch us on our Twitch TV, Monty Nefaro page. And if you're lucky enough to live in New York, you get to watch us on New York Cable not once, not twice, but 3 times. Channel 115 every Tuesday from 7 to 7:30, and on Saturday from 6 a.m. to 6:30. And if you're a late night dweller, Channel 20 from 2 a.m., this is this Friday, to 2:30, where you catch so many of our shows in a reclined.
Reclined. What are we, a sofa or an ottoman?
I guess not. Version.
Reclined.
We'll be right back
Nice
where we
try.
discuss WCCW along with our special guest, Mr. Mikey Messier, author, actor, and overall pro wrestling expert. We'll be right back. You need a body shop? You need engine repair? Auto Excellence, Collision Specialists, 631-261-6420. That's 631-261-6420. Auto Excellence.
The Monty and the Pharaoh Show is brought to you by...
Because wine is your second favorite 4-letter word. California wine, New York attitude. Good fucking wine.
Yeah.
In the mood for a freshly roasted cup of coffee? www.offtherailscoffeeroasters.com. Welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. Monty DeFaro, seen here only out of Indie Music TV, out of Ronkonkoma, Long Island, where we're having a special show, a revisit or a dedication to the world-renowned WCCW, and we've asked special guest, author, actor, pro wrestling expert, Mikey Messier to the program. Mikey, welcome aboard Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast.
Great to be here, Mike. Great to be here, Jimmy. The circumstances around the young lady's death last night, Daffney Unger was her name. She was a great character in WCW, and it brings back those tragic thoughts of, like you said, Chris Von Erich, Mike Von Erich, Kerry Von Erich. 3 of the 5 Von Erich sons that died young were suicides. And, world-class championship wrestling is something that, if you think of the positive, there's so much positive. The advances they did for pro wrestling, the stars that they made that came out of there, including guys like the Ultimate Warrior when he was the Dingo Warrior. But the downside of those early deaths is what a lot of people walk away with from WCCW.
So, Mike, let me ask you, you're an author, an actor, trying to live your dream and your trade. Have you ever gotten to the point where you felt like maybe you wanted to put an end to it?
No, I haven't gotten there, to be honest. I have had a lot of mental health issues, and I've chronicled that. I've discussed that. Vince Russo interviewed me 3 or 4 years ago, and that was the main topic. Both Vince Russo and my own mental health issues, which is on my Subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel. So I've had that turbulent road, but my path with that mental health has gone in different directions, more of a manic energy, for lack of a better term. We would be here for about a week if we started talking about that roller coaster, Mike, and maybe one day we'll do that. But that would take so long to get into. But yeah, I haven't been to that point of I do remember this though. Dennis Rodman, the great rebounder, one of the greatest rebounders of all time, is sitting in I believe the parking lot of where the Pistons played back when he was a Piston, and he wrote it in his book, One Night, One Gun, One Choice. He had the gun in his glove compartment, and he thought about he was a 2-time NBA champion at that point. He thought about putting it all to end right there in the parking lot. And who would have thought that would happen? The NBA champion would kill himself. Well, he didn't. He decided to change things. That's when he started dyeing his hair. He started getting traded to different teams. Eventually ended up, of course, with the Chicago Bulls, Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan and Coach Phil Jackson. And now he's a pop culture icon. So it doesn't mean that the person listening to our conversation is going to turn their life around and become the next Dennis Rodman, but you know for a fact that you won't if you kill yourself. And you know for a fact that if you kill yourself, your problems that might get fixed won't get fixed. And the people that love you and care about you and are concerned for you, they'll all have a huge void that'll never be filled. And if you do feel like there's people that are, people say player hating or hating on me, well, those bastards will win. So there you go.
Let me interrupt you on that. So, Jimmy, I want to ask you, Mikey brings up a really good point.
Shoot.
At what point do you feel that it's selfish to commit suicide and the people that you're affecting by doing this to yourself, Jimmy?
Well, I don't know if I can definitively say when someone does it, you were selfish. I would understand if somebody would thought that. But to me, I wonder about it sometimes. What is the motivation for suicide? And I remember a very wise thing said once, and I believe it was titled by U2, "You Can't Take It With You." And I wonder sometimes whether or not people get hung up on the material things that they never attained, or the riches they thought they would make when they're getting all depressed. At the end of the day, these are all just material things. What causes somebody to go over the edge and take a shot at their own spirit and try to kill themselves? It's a big question. I wish I had answers. Mike, what do you think, Mr. Mess, by the way, what's happening? Mess, what do you think has caused this? It can't just be chair shots and cane shots, I do believe that attributes, especially in a pro wrestler's demise, mentally and spiritually, that leads to suicide. But what else do you think contributes to somebody deciding to do something like this?
I mean, I think every case, obviously, Jimmy, and good to see you too, buddy.
Yes,
every
sir.
case is going to be different. But I think one factor could be if the person feels that things are so bad that they'd rather not feel anything than feel what they feel. So if they're feeling psychotic, if they're feeling depressed, if they're feeling violent, and they're crawling out of their own skin, if they feel that they're in a situation they can't get out of. A couple of years ago, I knew a guy in the acting world, a young guy. He was probably 30 years old. He found out that the mother of his child had been having an affair with another man, and he killed himself. And it was, why did he do that? Well, the speculation was that he was from an Asian culture, that he felt disgraced because his wife cheated on him with another man. But then the thing that he left behind is, hey, look, maybe that marriage is over. Maybe that marriage is done. But you still have a kid. You still have a child.
Right.
You're still the father of the child, not this guy that she's having this fling with, that that'll probably be over before you know it.
Sure.
You've got to live for your daughter, and he chose not to. And so I think what we use this word selfish, it's probably more complicated than that.
Yep.
I think the one thing that I would say, folks, and I did a live stream on Subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel last night, just to kind of process my feelings about what was going on with the Daffney situation. I thought I'd just be talking about AEW Dynamite, just a regular Wednesday night wrestle talk, but instead, the Daffney became front and center. Here's the thing that I don't like that she did. I don't like the fact that she did this on a social media platform, because you don't know if kids were watching. You could have a 13-year-old girl watching this stuff who was very influenced. And the problem that I would address last night is the copycat thing. When Kurt Cobain died in 1994, if you believe it was suicide or not, that was the story at the time. 4 guys committed suicide later on that day. In their thoughts, they were tributing to Kurt, or they were joining him wherever he was. So the thing with this social media, and at this point, the cat is out of the bag, the magic is in the atmosphere. With social media, people have to be real responsible. Daffney wanted her brain to go to science. That's great. The thing about having this streaming video thing that she did, I just hope that other people don't get it in their mind that if they're looking for some quick attention, they should do something like that, because they shouldn't.
Well,
good point. I agree.
Thanks.
Totally agree.
My train of thought here was, you brought it up, like, why go to do a video on it if you just want to off yourself? It's
I found it interesting. It seems, it seemed like a cry for help, but she meant it. She followed through. So, I mean, I guess social media could be effectively used if she was doing a public cry for help.
Here's the deal, guys. Suicide is a control method. It's the total absorption of being in control. You're not going to allow anyone to do anything to you. That's the ultimate control.
Wow.
And
that's different.
In a lot of points, again, I can't help, and I know a lot of people may not agree with me, but it is selfish, right? It's
You're entitled to feel that.
It's
nothing wrong with you saying that.
There's so many different things you can do.
Right.
If your life is so bad, try to make changes. Do the best you can. Look, there's people that are terminally ill that are scared to die, and they want to kill themselves because they don't want to face it, but they continue on.
True.
What Mike Messier said, or what you're saying also, is like, you go to social media now, someone's going to watch you do this, and they may think it's cool.
Yeah.
And then they have a bad day, and it's just a bad day. At 16 years old, can I ask you, Jimmy, how many bad days did you have? Right? How many girlfriends did you ever break up with that you thought it was the end of your life?
Oh, yeah, there were a couple.
Right?
I got pretty smart, though, by 21, but go on.
But you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like a lot of things happen that you go, this is the end. But it's not the end, because you have to drive on.
Mess, do you think that she might have had some expectations with her career early on, and that she might have been disappointed that she didn't get to a certain level? Do you think that stuff like that plays in when you're an aspiring professional, and she did get a taste of the limelight? Do you think that it was hard for her in the following years after she was no longer on, WCW television?
Well, that's a great question. She did have some good runs, though, in total nonstop action TNA wrestling. She did do something. It wasn't even that long ago. She did something with Dr. Stevie, like she was a nurse, and she played like a Sarah Palin character, like a parody of Sarah Palin. So that's going back, 8 or 10 years. But she did have some. She was one of those wrestlers that was never featured in the WWE. But she was definitely an indie favorite, a convention favorite. Yeah, if we look at the pictures of her right before she passed away, she had obviously gained some weight, a little bit of weight there. And so maybe she wasn't the same Daffney from 1999, but who is? I mean, that's 21 years ago, right? So, but I saw her talking to Mickey James, promoting Empower on some type of Zoom call or some type of podcast they did. So she was still active as far as the convention scene and stuff like that. And I'll be honest, I wasn't the number one Daffney fan in the world, so I don't know what was going on with her. Her Wikipedia page does say that she was divorced.
Well, Todd Beecraft says out there her weight bothered her. She talked about that. Okay. So I didn't know that. And again, it must be hard, right? A very attractive younger lady puts on a little weight or excess weight, and like you said, she's divorced, and maybe it just becomes that situation. But again, you can do something about your weight. You can work hard.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Can I go back to the concussion thing? Because Jimmy addressed it. And Jimmy, I'm pulling for you, man, because I'm sure that you've gotten checked out and everything. And I've been in a couple of car accidents in my day, too, so I know what that's all about. But here's the thing. Even in her final video, which is very haunting, when I watched it, it's very disturbing. She says something very quickly about they have to get brains at different stages. So I want to send my brain now while this is just starting with me so they can look at it and compare it to brains that go further along. So she had this whole thing in her head like, okay, I'm doomed. I'm going to get this this brain trauma is going to screw me up. Maybe she feared becoming violent with other people. She didn't want to become a Chris Benoit story or a Junior Seau story. So she did this as a defense. Look, but here's the thing. I feel even weird bringing that up because I don't want to glamorize this. I really don't want to glamorize it. I think that the line that we all walk when we have these discussions is we don't want to glamorize it because if you glamorize it, other people might do it. But you don't want to crucify the person either because you want to show empathy and sympathy to the person. Well, so we're all kind of dancing that line.
Mike, not to go down this road, but I want to go back to something you said because I want to make something clear because this is a thing that's very near and dear to my heart. You mentioned she didn't want to be another Chris Benoit situation. Chris Benoit was a murderer and an evil son of a bitch who murdered his wife and murdered his son. And I don't blame CTE for it. I blame him because he's as evil as the Son of Sam or others out there. So again, CTE is real. Okay, but I don't want to give Chris, at least on this show, I never want to give Chris Benoit a pass for CTE. Right. And again, Mike, you have your own right to your own opinion. I just felt it's necessary that I jump in there and I say that. So not to carry on too much, let's move on to a little bit of WCW. If both of you guys could share with the audience your experiences with WCCW and what turned you on to that great organization. If I could start off with Jimmy Farrow first.
You got it. WCCW. Well, to me, it's the pinnacle and the ultimate penthouse as far as Southern wrestling goes. And when I think Southern wrestling, I always think Texas. Always think Texas. The vivid memory that I will probably always have in my head was in their prime years as far as attention from the public was like probably 1981 through 85. And one of the things that I will never forget was when Kerry was wrestling Ric Flair and Mr. Gordy. The Freebirds were at the time aligned with Kerry, and Mr. Gordy slammed the cage into Kerry's head. And Rick wound up maintaining, and the Freebirds were on their way. This is something I always think of. Another thing that I always think of, too, and it's interesting as the years go on, there were some real fine minds behind that promotion. You had Von Erich, you had Brody, you had some real smart wrestlers taking care of that company. They can do very little wrong with me. They were just absolutely an amazing company. And one of the reasons why the NWA from 1948 till, I would say, what are we talking, before it becomes WCW, the NWA were basically territorial kings. Mess, what do you got when it comes to WCCW?
Well, the first thing everybody says is Von Erich's Freebirds or Freebirds Von Erich's. I'm
Sure.
going to go a little more obscure just to mix it up a little bit. The penalty box match. I mean, the penalty box match was one of the craziest things, and you saw this right on their weekly syndicated program. And I was in Rhode Island as a kid. I was in Virginia as a kid, and World Class was syndicated, non-cable. I was seeing this stuff. And the penalty box match, which I wish somebody, AEW or somebody would bring it back, was like this match where if it's a tag team match, a 2-on-2 match usually, and if somebody cheats, they don't get disqualified. They get put in the penalty box, like a hockey game.
I love it.
And so they had these crazy penalty box matches with, gorgeous Jimmy Garvin and Michael P.S. Hayes against Chris Adams and Kevin Von Erich. And if you cheat, you put in the penalty box. And then there's a 2-on-1 advantage for a couple of minutes, and then the guy gets out of the penalty box.
Power play.
It was crazy. It's just
Great.
fun. And I don't know if you guys saw it, but in the Monty and the Pharaoh Facebook group, I posted a bootleg YouTube video of this wonderful documentary, Legends of World Class Championship Wrestling. It's a 2-hour and 40-minute adventure. So it took me, I have the DVD somewhere, but I watched it on YouTube. And folks, it's not the official WWE version of events. This is something that was made before then. Gary Hart speaks a lot in this. Kevin speaks a lot in this. Kevin Von Erich. Ken Mantell, his brother Johnny Mantell, they all have interviews in this documentary, and they show Kevin walking around the Sportatorium as it's days from being demolished. And it's just emotional, and it's hard-hitting. But you talk about Iceman King Parsons and Buddy Jack Roberts putting their hair on the line. You talk about the faux pas with cousin Lance Von Erich. Probably the worst thing that World Class ever did was Lance Von Erich. You talk, like, as Jimmy mentioned, the Parade of Champions. The weird thing, guys, is that this promotion lost its shining star, David Von Erich, who was picked to be a world heavyweight champion. He probably would have gotten 2 or 3 title runs in the 80s. He probably would have been mixed in with Flair. And
by the way,
died.
this is why I'm in the minority.
You be careful.
I feel that Kerry was the one. He's the guy. But again, I'm in the minority. Real quick, before we get back to you, Mike, John Jamick says out there, if the Von Erichs would have stayed straight, World Class probably would have buried the WWF.
I do not agree with that.
I kind of agree with that.
Well, you are a huge Kerry Von Erich, but I don't see how. I just don't see how. They didn't have the mindset that Vince McMahon did. And I know Mess is not the biggest Vince McMahon guy, but look, Vince McMahon at the time understood what it was going to take and had a vision to take things globally. I don't think that they thought that way. I don't believe that a lot of the NWA territorial owners and promoters thought the way Vince did. This is not a condemnation of them, however. They were all traditional, old school, excellent bookers. But Vince was looking ahead. And I don't believe that they would have taken Vince down. I don't believe anybody would have taken Vince down. Otherwise, they would have. Mess, I want to ask you.
Real quick, we just got to take a quick commercial break.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
We shall return.
And APB, American Protection Bureau, voted #1 best on Long Island for all your security needs. Call 631-390-9050. That's 631-390-9050. APB.
Wrestling fans, now you too can look as cool as Monty and the Pharaoh by wearing the official Monty and the Pharaoh sunglasses at night for $8.99 each. That's only $8.99 each. Now available at montyandthepharaoh.com.
Hi, it's John from Under the Table Hot Sauce. I'm here with my friend, the star of the show, Jimmy Farrow.
Yeah, what's up, JB?
Nah, nothing.
It's been a hot summer, and for all your barbecue needs, you can go to underthetablehotsauce.com. 13 unique flavors to choose from, created and bottled in a Long Island kitchen. Underthetablehotsauce.com. Let's go chow, JB.
Let's do it.
All the flavor, twice the burn.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestler broadcast, Monty and the Pharaoh, seen here out of Indie Music TV. Want to thank everybody for joining us tonight on Thursday night, where obviously I have my partner in crime, Mr. Jimmy Farrow, and we've got special guest, author, actor, pro wrestling expert Mike Messier.
Mess, I wanted to ask you, where do you rank? And I am very interested in your answer here, because you are a pro wrestling expert. Where do you rank WCCW in the territory days? I want you to put them up against Georgia Championship Wrestling, Florida Championship Wrestling. Obviously, you have Mid-South with Mr. Bill Watts. You can name a few more if you care to. But as far as the NWA territory days, where would you rank WCCW?
A strong point for them being number 2 behind Carolinas, because the Jim Crockett promotions seem to have the inroads to the World Heavyweight Champion. As we know, eventually, Jim Crockett promotions kind of bought out the other territories as they were all struggling financially. But World Class is the one that put 43,000 people, I think 43,173, I believe it was it May 4th, 1984, in the Texas Stadium. That's the one that drew that crowd. Now, we hear these vague things about Bill Watts and the UWF or Mid-South Wrestling getting big Superdome crowds, but they never give you an exact number. But when you see that footage of Kerry beating Flair with the backslide and the missing link on that show and Fritz von Erich coming out of retirement for the Bad Street match against the Freebirds, you legit see 43,000 people in that audience.
Right.
So you got to say you could make a case for number 1, but I would say that you would probably say 2 because the Carolinas are the ones that survived, and so there's got to be points for survival. But Eddie Graham in Florida, we talk about. I hate to drag this into it again, but Eddie Graham committed suicide. His son Mike Graham committed suicide. That was the Florida. Florida was huge. Georgia Championship Wrestling doing the Omni every single week. Unbelievable. That was huge.
Right.
This is why you mentioned kind of my anger towards Vince sometimes. It's because I cared so much about those territory days that I feel that Vince overstepped his boundaries. His father had made a truce with all these guys, and Vince manifests destiny on his part. Every man for himself type of thinking. That's, Black Saturday, 1984. Once again, we could be here for 5 weeks talking about this stuff.
Mess, I got to tell you, Black Saturday, just so you know, boy, oh boy, did that piss me off. I was pissed.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you doing on this show? Get off this show. So at least you know that I felt that way about that. I'll always support Vince, but that really got under my skin.
For me, I thought it was the greatest Saturday of all time.
What are you talking? How is that possible? How is it? Okay, wise guy. Explain how.
How? Because when I saw my boy Vinnie Mac sitting in place of Gordon Soley, I said, you do it, brother. That's what I'm talking about.
In place
Vinny.
of Gordon Soley? I'm offended now, Mess. What are we going to do with this guy?
Sacrilege.
You see that?
Oh, my God.
You have treaded.
So
Hey.
I rank Kerry Von Erich. A couple of years ago when we first started on the show, or doing a show.
Yeah.
We did our top 10 greatest matches. I ranked Ric Flair, Kerry Von Erich as number 5.
Wow.
Where do you guys put it?
Shoot, Mess.
Well, for some reason I want to say number 9, but I think I'm just kind of being generous because I want to be in the same ballpark. To be honest, it's a good match. I would probably put Steiners versus Luger and Sting up there. Flair and Steamboat at the Raging Cajun Clash. Number 6 is my all-time favorite. I'll be honest. I would put it number 9 to be nice, but if I really made a list, it may not be that high, buddy.
So you wouldn't even make it in the top 10?
I don't know if it would make my top 20 if I really sat down there and made a list, to be honest.
That's fair. It didn't make my top 10, right?
No, it did not make your top 10.
Right. Hey, Mess, what do you think about having the nerve to say, like, matches with Okada versus Omega, the trilogy, were one of some of the greatest matches ever? Do you tread on the traditionalist when you say things like that? I'm just curious what your take is to some of the more recent classics and how they stack up compared to some of the old classics that we speak of.
Here's the thing with me. I don't disrespect Japanese wrestling, but I wish I had more Japanese wrestling that had American commentary or English-speaking commentary.
Nothing wrong with that.
To be
That's
honest,
fair. That's fair.
Yeah. And I would love to. We used to joke about that in college. We wanted to kidnap a Japanese kid and force him to do English commentary for the wrestling because we wanted to watch Great Muta versus Nakamura or whoever. We wanted to watch some Japanese wrestling,
Sure.
and with someone explaining to us what's going on.
What's happening?
As far as Okada and Omega, here's my thing. Omega did lose me when he's wrestling 9-year-old girls in Japan. He's wrestling plastic dolls in Japan.
Yeah.
I've come to a peaceful accord with the presence of Omega in AEW because he's part of the product. He's part of the scenery. But I'm not a Kenny Omega guy. When he shakes his head, like Jim Cornette says, it is annoying. And whenever Kenny Omega comes on to wrestle, guys, I usually go and look at my own book that I wrote.
So, I would like to hear it loud and clear from the pro wrestling expert. Kenny Omega is an overrated clown in your book.
I think he is an overrated. I'll say he's an overrated mime. How about that?
Okay, well, if he's wrestling dolls and small children, that's a bit clownish, right?
So I'm not a fan of Omega. Again, I'm not a fan of AEW. Right, I made that clear. One thing I am a fan of is the Von Erichs. Kerry Von Erich, David Von Erich, Kevin Von Erich. If the Von Erichs left WCCW while they were still healthy, could they have made a bigger mark on the industry?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that they self-imploded. I mean, obviously. I mean, Kerry, you hear so many stories about Kerry being so fucked up when he was getting opportunities that a lot of wrestlers would absolutely do anything to get. So, yeah. David, and I don't know how Mess felt about David. I can ask you that right after I'm done speaking about it. But David, I thought David was absolutely top shelf. He was going to be one of the all-time greats. He was fast-tracking. He was big enough. He was great on the mic. He was just great. And then the end. Unfortunately for him, I think it was health in his insides burst, if I'm not mistaken. He had something that the Pharaoh has experienced. So I survived it. But, to me, yeah, unfortunately, they either cut themselves short or fate intervened in David's case with health. What was your take on David? Is he the greatest Von Erich to you? And do you think that the Von Erichs cut themselves short?
Well, the Von Erichs definitely cut themselves short. Here's the thing. In that documentary, it says Bill Mercer and Ken Mantell say they wanted to go forward and be national and take on Vince head-to-head, but Fritz was the one that wanted to keep the shows all in Texas. Fritz did not want to tour the country, and he said that his boys weren't up for it. And I would say that if the boys, at that point, Kevin and Kerry, who was he really talking about, they probably could have done it. You could have easily put Kerry Von Erich in Sting's spot, for instance. Take Sting out of Clash of Champions 1 and put a Kerry Von Erich versus Ric Flair match on the worldwide television on TBS against WrestleMania 4. As far as David Von Erich goes, watch a David Von Erich promo where he's shooting on Jimmy Garvin or Ric Flair or the Freebirds, and you're going to see someone come through the TV there. You're going to see Stone Cold Steve Austin. Stone Cold Steve Austin was the reincarnate of David Von Erich. Austin 316 had David Von Erich written all over it. So they didn't look alike, the bald head and the goatee, but they were both from Texas, and Steve Austin is a guy that got trained by gentleman Chris Adams. in the dying days of world class. And so we talk about pro wrestling in a sense. If there wasn't a world class championship wrestling, there probably would not be WWE right now, because Steve Austin, more or less as a talent, single-handedly saved WWF in '96. He got caught on fire, and he was able to fight off the NWO from WCW. But if Steve Austin didn't get trained in that sportatorium from Chris Adams, because of all the hard work that World Class Championship Wrestling had done, we wouldn't have the mighty WWE today. So there you go.
Look, I have to agree with the fan out there that if the Von Erichs held their act together, they could have challenged the WWF.
Challenged, yes.
If you think about the wrestlers that went through that organization,
Amazing.
from the Fabulous Freebirds
Amazing.
to the Missing Link, Bruiser Brody, Tony Atlas, Chris Adams, Gino Hernandez,
Oh, boy.
Baby Doll, Missy Hyatt, John
Little side
Tatum.
order of Manny Fernandez?
Was Manny in there?
I
have to
think
look.
Manny
He
was
might
involved
have
in
been.
Texas sometimes. yeah.
Gary, the great Gary Hart, and eventually the Dingo Warrior, who became the Ultimate Warrior, which everyone knows. This organization had the who's who, and I got to tell you, their vignettes and storylines growing up and watching these were fantastic. So I want to tell the fans out there, Mike, we'd like you to join us in this. We're bringing something back we like to do once in a while. It's called Head to Head, where we usually take an older wrestler against a newer wrestler. But in this particular case, we're going to take the late Bobby Eaton, one of the great tag team wrestlers, against another great tag team wrestler, Michael P.S. Hayes.
Wow.
Jimmy Farrell will explain the rules to everybody, and then we'll have it and have a little fun. So, Maddie, hit the thing.
Tonight, we are going to witness the most anticipated match in the history of professional wrestling for the heavyweight championship of the world. Are you ready? Wrestling fans, are you ready?
All right, we have returned for head-to-head. By the way, this is awesome. Mess is going to play head-to-head with us?
He's going to play head-to-head with us.
Wow, Mess, this is going to be great. Hang in there, kiddo. Let's do the rules first. Rule number 1 for the competition. The first is mic skills. How good are you on the stick? Are you engaging? Are you interesting? Or are you just drawing paint? How's that sound?
That sounds
good?
great. Yeah.
All right. Category number 2, mat skills. I always think of Bret Hart when I say this, but then again, after talking with Mess, for some stupid reason, I've got Kenny Omega wrestling a doll in my head. Not exactly what I'm looking for. Mat skills, category number 2. Category number 3, overall influence on the industry. This is where Mess goes and reaches for a bottle of Alka-Seltzer because I'm thinking Vince McMahon. Influence on the industry. Sorry, Mess, I had to. Category number 4, my personal favorite. I bet you Mess loves this one too. The back of the baseball card. What have you won? What have you done? Maybe you've done nothing. And that would eliminate you right away from this category. Like poor Frankie Williams. He did so much, but what's on the back of the back? He tried. He tried really hard.
By the way, Chris Lee says the next head-to-head should be Abdullah the Butcher against the Pharaoh.
Against me.
Yeah.
I already told you that I'm afraid of him coming in, and now you want to do head-to-head. I am not fighting that guy without a full set of silverware, okay?
Hey,
I'll do it, but I want
By the way,
a full
this
set of silver.
cartoon, the back of the baseball card cartoon that has me really fat. I guess this is before
this
I
is,
lost.
This is an old...
Pre-heart attack.
That's an old drawer. You don't look like that at all anymore.
Pre-heart attack.
All right, and final category, category number 5, Holy David Von Erich, the It Factor. Are you that polarizing that I have to stop what I'm doing, sometimes in the bathroom, and come running to the set with the toilet paper hanging out of my bunghole?
Nice.
All right, that's it. Was that a little too descriptive, Mess? I tried.
Well,
All right.
a tinge, but it's all right.
So, what do we got? What do we got?
All right, guys. The first contestant is one half of the Midnight Express, managed by Jim Cornette, Mr. Bobby Eaton. You want to start off, Mike?
Huntsville, Alabama.
Let's go with category number 1 first, Mikey. Let's do Mike skills. We got Bobby Eaton going head-to-head with Michael P.S. Hayes. Who would you give them? And then some of these may be slam dunks. It's just the way it goes. I mean, who do you give the better mic skills to?
You got to give it to Hayes because he's saying Bad Street USA. He could cut a promo. He carried Buddy Jack Roberts and Terry Gordy in promos for the most part. And Bobby had Jim Cornette as his mic piece. You got to go with Hayes on that.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy, who do you got?
I completely agree, although I don't think Bobby Eaton was a bad talker, but you're talking about the penthouse of talkers. Michael Hayes was top shelf main event mouthpiece.
So, forgive me for this.
What?
Bobby Eaton, but Bobby Eaton was terrible on the mic.
Ooh.
In fact, I don't ever really remember him ever talking.
He was fine when he spoke. He wasn't terrible.
I can't even remember one time that Bobby Eaton even spoke.
You don't remember when he said hi, Mike, and waved to
Yeah,
you?
maybe. Yeah,
You don't
exactly.
remember that?
He did the Tully and Arn thing. When Tully and Arn came out to confront the Midnight Express, he talked a little bit. He was pretty good, but that's about it.
But
I thought he was fine.
Obviously, Michael Hayes, probably one of the best wrestlers in the history of pro wrestling on the stick. This is this is what you call a slam dunk. This is an annihilation. Michael Hayes by 50 furlongs.
Okay, so we all agree on category number 1. So Michael Hayes is up 1-0. However, I think that his fortunes are about to change, Mr. Eaton's. Number 2 category, mat skills. To me, it's Bobby Eaton. I think Bobby Eaton was a much, much better wrestler than Michael Hayes as far as the mat skills go. Now, Michael Hayes, as far as getting emotions out of the crowd, was fantastic. But as far as being a, pure, mat worker, I gotta go with one half of the Midnight Express. What say you, Mess?
Yeah, I agree. Bobby Eaton wins this one. I would like to say that Michael Hayes is a little bit underrated with his ring skills, but Bobby Eaton wins this one.
Okay.
So this one's a little closer for me because obviously Eaton was a high flyer in a lot of ways. When I mean high flyer, he did a lot of off-the-top rope stuff. Hayes was a ground-and-pound guy. Hayes probably wasn't the greatest wrestler, but I go back to what you just said, Pharaoh. He got more emotion out of the fans than Bobby Eaton did.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Okay.
But I will agree with both of you. I'm going to give this to Eaton by a head.
All right. Very good. So far, we have all agreed, which is shocking when you think about it. And we got ourselves 1-1. Let's go to category number 3. This one's hard for me. Overall influence on the industry. Wow. Well, when you think of the Midnight Express, absolute legendary penthouse of a team. But then, when you think of the Freebirds, absolutely legendary penthouse of a team. Who overall had more influence? I have to lean towards Michael Hayes with the Freebirds. It's just my personal opinion, but I feel like the Freebirds and Michael Hayes, as Mess said, being the mouthpiece, being the one who carried the act as far as speaking and communicating with the fans, Bad Street USA, coming out to rock music like that was also, his deal. Yeah, I'm going to give the edge to Michael Hayes. And it's a little painful, but I got to go in that direction. What do you say, Mess?
I agree because Michael Hayes, I don't know if we can count his 20 years behind the scenes with WWE, but as a producer, as a guy that's advised the Hardys, and that was kind of kayfabe, but he's advised a lot of people at WWE. He's been working behind the scenes for 20 years, right?
Right.
At least.
Right.
Michael Hayes all day and night, no offense to Bobby Eaton, but there's a Freebird rule. When you have 3 people in a tag team that wrestle as 2, they call it the Freebird rule.
True.
You don't have the Midnight Express rule. So I got to go with Hayes again.
So no one's a bigger fan of the Freebirds than myself, I believe. But I will say this, that the Freebirds were great in World Class Championship Wrestling. Their return to, or their joining of the AWA and the Road Warrior matches was nothing to write home about. In fact, as a fan, I found those very, very, with another very, disappointing. If you want to mention their WWF run, which was probably one of the most awful runs in the history of the the WWE for a big-time, recognized group of
Expectations not met.
not met.
Fair enough.
Where I can say that the Midnight Express, under Bobby Eaton, no matter where they went, were always very highly successful. But I have to go with the Freebirds and Michael Hayes. And let's not forget about Michael Hayes' singles runs, his matches against Ric Flair.
You know what I think about that. You know that I feel that Michael Hayes should have been a world champion.
And
I believe that.
There is a
but that's me.
DVD out there about, it's called Bad Street USA, and supposedly the WWE was going to put the strap on Michael Hayes and make him the world heavyweight champion and go over Hulk Hogan. Now, again, I don't know how true that is, but whatever. But I agree with both of you that Michael Hayes' overall influence on the industry is over Bobby Eaton.
Mess, real fast before we get to Category 4. What did you feel about Michael Hayes' solo? Did you ever think to yourself, this is the makings of a world champion? Because I really did.
No, I don't think I saw him as a world champion, but you got to remember, he was in the decades and the years of Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair and guys like Rick Martel that he challenged for the title. Me personally, no. He was a good challenger once in a while. I didn't see him as being a world champion.
Okay, fair enough. I felt that he had the charisma and was so over that it definitely would not have been something I would have smirked at, that's for sure. Let's get to Category 4, my favorite, and this one's going to really mess me up. The back of the baseball card. So, when you're putting Eaton up against Hayes, you cannot help but think about the teams that they were both in. This is almost impossible for me, Mike. Both Mikes out there that I'm speaking with right now. This is almost impossible for me. How the hell can I really say one over the other? They were both absolutely incredible careers. You know what? I'm gonna step out of the box a little bit with this one. I'm calling this one a draw. And you can, by the way, call them a draw if you see it that way, guys. And, we've done that once in a blue moon. I have to do that with this. I refuse to say one career on the back of the baseball card was better than the other. This is difficult for me. I say draw. Go ahead, Mess.
Well, this was one that I was going to give to Eaton just because I was trying to make it close. But if I'm going to be really hardcore about it, I got to give it to Hayes. Because you're talking about the Junkyard Dog angle in Mid-South. You're talking about the Von Erichs, as we've talked about. You're talking about his time with Jimmy Jam Garvin in the beginnings of WCW, which we haven't even talked about, that version of the Freebirds, which I thought was pretty fun, to be honest with you. And all the WWF stuff. I got to give the back of the card. And look, Eaton was great. Starrcade 86, Starrcade 87, even Starrcade 85 against Miss Atlanta Lively. Eaton was the glue when they transitioned from Dennis Condrey to Stan Lane. Bobby Eaton kept that machine running in the ring. But I'm giving it to Michael Hayes.
All right, Mr. Monty.
This one's a tough one.
It is.
Back of the baseball card, very tough.
Very tough.
I can't disagree with giving him a tie. I also can't disagree with Mike on his opinion. Shockingly enough, I'm going to go with Bobby Eaton on this. His runs and his tag team championship and the overall runs with the Midnight Express. And let's not downplay his late WCW runs and his singles action. They were pushing him for a large point. So I think if you actually look at the back of the baseball card, championships won, title matches, things like that, hard to argue with either one of your guys' opinion, but I'm just going to be the odd man out here, and I'm going to just say I'm going to go with Bobby Eaton on this one.
Interesting. Okay, guys, so this is where we're at right now. Michael Hayes has won category number 1 with Mike skills. Bobby Eaton has won category number 2 with Matt skills. Overall influence on the industry we gave to Michael Hayes. The back of the baseball card is technically a draw, because I voted draw, Mess voted one way, Monty voted the other way. That makes it a draw. So we are 2-1-1 in favor of Michael Hayes, and we are now on the final category. This could end in a draw, but in my opinion, it doesn't. Category number 5 is the it factor. What kind of pizzazz did you have? What kind of magnetism did you have? This, to me, is a slam dunk. Michael, the Freebird, Michael Hayes. I don't even need to get too far into this. That guy oozed charisma. So I have to go with Michael Hayes. What say you, Mess?
Watch Michael Hayes dancing around and singing Bad Street USA at the WWE Hall of Fames the last 5 or 6 years. It's still Michael Hayes even to this day. The guy's got more charisma now than most guys in the business ever have. So Michael Hayes wins that. No offense to Bobby Eaton. He wasn't a charisma guy. He was a technician.
Correct.
I'm gonna say the same thing with you guys. Michael Hayes, by far, this isn't even close. Michael Hayes, a blowout. Michael Hayes, probably one of the great stickmen of all time.
Yep.
One of the great It Factor guys.
Yep.
Michael Hayes is Michael Hayes. This guy changed the industry. I can't say that for Bobby Eaton.
Right.
So, yes, Michael Hayes by a blowout.
All right, folks, and that's that. Bess, hey, thanks for playing head-to-head with us. We have our winner, Michael P.S. Hayes. By the way, real fast, Mess, you might like this story. There's only one thing, though, that I'm not thrilled with Michael Hayes. Don't you think he should have been a little nicer to you that one time you ran into him?
Yeah,
Why don't you tell that story?
So
Mess, check this
quick
out.
story. I was flying to Atlanta for work, and every time I go into Atlanta, which I quite oftenly do, I always think about Bad Street USA, and I'll sing it in my head because I did love that song, and I was a loser, Mark, and that's just the way it was, and that's how it is.
Okay, fair enough.
So I get off the plane, and here's this dude in a blue suit with this white top hat on, and it's Michael P.S. Hayes, and I'm like, holy shit. The next plane I go on is going to crash because I was thinking about Michael Hayes. I go up to him. I start talking about old school wrestling. The guy was like, get away from me, you freak. Was really kind of nasty. So I know a few people in the WWE, and I mentioned that Michael was a little off that day. And they told me Michael sent a message to me that said, fuck you, freak.
Nice.
So,
nice. Mess, does this change your opinion on him, or are you still good with him?
I feel like you felt like Carrie getting your head smashed with the cage door on Christmas night '82.
That's great.
Yeah, cut down in your Mark Prime, huh? That must have been rough.
Maria Davis says, Mike was mean to Monty, and I said, yes, Maria, hurt my feelings.
Feelings?
He did.
I didn't know
He
you
hurt
had
my-
any
he hurt my
feelings.
feelings. Well, Mike, I want to thank you for joining the show. I want to tell the fans out there we've got some upcoming shows coming up. We have on September 17th, we have DC Drake in studio.
Gotcha.
From 10 a.m.
Nice.
Oh, wait a minute, I got my days wrong.
September
17th is...
There's a bunch of people coming in September 17th.
Oh, that's right. It's DC Drake
You're on
and
the
Abdullah the
money.
Butcher. I
Wait a
apologize.
minute, again with
Are in
Abdullah.
studio. Oh, my God. And then at 1 o'clock, we have ECW, WWE, Hall of Famer Rob Van Dam in studio. This is our special guest to the fans out there and our members on YouTube. This is where the YouTube members will get to ask Rob Van Dam and have a special 90 minutes with Mr. Rob Van Dam, be able to ask him all they want.
Yeah, and Farrell gets his top 5 all-time favorite guy in. He's one of my top 5.
Absolutely. And October 1st, we've got Mega Powers 2.0 in studio. So we had Randy Hogan, WCW Randy Hogan, and Macho Man will be in studio, and also ECW legend Sabu. This is our third time with Sabu. The first 2 times he no-shows.
Can Sabu put those guys to a table during the show? Can Sabu put Macho Man and Hogan to a table?
You know what? That's a good idea.
Please, wait a minute. Don't give him any ideas for Sabu to be violent when he's here.
And
I'm afraid of him already.
Just announced Saturday, November 20th, we rescheduled the Baby Doll interview.
Nice.
And she'll be joined with WCW Ranger Ross.
You got to be kidding
Mikey, do you remember Ranger Ross?
You got to be kidding me.
Ranger Ross competed at Clash of the Champions 6. He made airtime, and Sting and Lex Luger did not. So there you go.
Wow. Mess, man. Hats off, but I won't take it off. I don't.
And your fondest memory of Ranger Ross, Farrell?
Ranger Ross.
Yes.
Oh, my God. You think I got a memory like Mess does? What, are you kidding me? I'm going to have to go back and check out a whole bunch of stuff from Ranger
In
Ross.
1985, Ranger Ross wrestled Wild Samoa number 2 to a 20-minute draw where Ranger Ross's boot came off and was hung on a... I don't know.
I think he beat the Iron Sheik.
Are you serious?
I think the Ranger Ross did beat the Iron Sheik. That's pretty funny.
Oh, my God.
I'm almost positive that WCW had Ranger Ross beat the Iron Sheik on a Clash or on a pay-per-view because they were really pushing him hard. And Iron Sheik that didn't fit well with the company, so they made Iron Sheik lose, but Iron Sheik lost and took the money. So there you go.
Yeah. That sounds like Iron Sheik would do something like that. Okay, fair enough. That's fair enough.
All right. But anyway,
conclude
Mikey,
our
we want to
list?
thank you for joining us. You've been watching Long Island's #1 pro wrestler broadcast, Monty DeFaro. Mikey, is there anything you want to promote out there, my friend?
Well, my book is on Amazon, A Distance from Avalon, When the Dying and the Dead Reunite. Oddly enough, there's a little bit of suicide discussing in the book, but it's a kind of a gothic horror. Subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel. As we were going on the air tonight, hit 1,000 subscribers. So I want to thank all the subscribers. I got a lot of support on Twitter and Facebook and the wrestling groups. And thanks to you guys for having me on the show. I think this is the third or fourth time.
Sure.
But I always enjoy being here with you guys. You guys are kicking ass in Long Island and doing things the right way. And for all the people out there that heard us talking earlier, things will always get better if you allow them to. So hang in there, people. Don't let the bad times bring you down.
That's a great message, Mike. Well done, sir.
Awesome.
And you know what? I'm going to second that. Life's tough. You got to hang in there, man. You got people that love you. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your friends.
Amen.
You know what? Life is short. We have all the time in the world to take that final dirt nap. So you know what? Hang in there.
Absolutely.
Farrell, final words.
Just want to thank Mr. Mike Messier for coming on. Good luck with the YouTube channel, Mike, and the book. And it's been another bit of a whirlwind week. Boy, we really are all over the place emotionally sometimes, Mike. I got to hand it to you. Between the unfortunate suicide and then reflecting on things that used to make us smile back in the day with the territory. We really do run the ladder up and down, don't we?
Well, I gotta tell you,
It's exhausting if you
I'll
wanna know
say
the
it
truth.
again. We are blessed to have people watching us on every Thursday and supporting us. And the messages I get from the fans on the Monty and DeFaro webpage
They are the best.
and on our YouTube page. If I could quickly, I want to read one. I'm not going to say the person's name, but
Okay. What do you got?
it meant something. It says, I have to say, finding your show honestly has been a blessing. Takes my mind off my stomach pains. Friends and family are happy because I talk about you guys all the time. To me, this makes it all worth it. That statement alone makes it all worth it. So when I read that, I know how you feel. You know what? Thank you, guys. We're humbled.
You've been watching Monty and the Pharaoh. And until next week, be good and take care of yourself, guys. We love you all. Later.